The new Tesla service center in North Hollywood.
The most exciting one for me so far.
With a lot of Teslas.
We probably crashed around 70.
The event's about to start. A couple minutes here.
We're able to make it out tonight.
A party over here.
Is Ryan Torres. Thank you all so much for attending our grand opening of North Hollywood. I want to thank all the teams that made this happen. This is a state-of-the-art facility. And the gentleman standing next to me, been with Tesla for 14 years. He's been part of every vehicle that we built from the ground up. Ladies and gentlemen, Wes Morrill.
Cybertruck was, the most exciting one for me so far.
I also want to introduce Ari Nagger here. He's our manager of residential energy, also with a specialty in our PowerShare program, which we're also going to discuss as well. So what would you say was your favorite moment?
Towards the end was the most fun because we had a full vehicle. So we got to go out on the road and do some real testing. We made a video showcasing the off-road mode in Moab. That was pretty once-in-a-lifetime experience, pretty cool. We drove the trucks from San Diego down to through Baja down to Cabo, over 1,200 miles. The thing that was most exciting for me was all the way at the beginning when we were trying to figure out how do we make the vehicle that is what you see today actually function as a great vehicle, have a great powertrain, have a good crash structure, be safe, meet all the things that you expect a vehicle to do by default. All of the structure of the vehicle was an interesting challenge because, as we've talked about time and again, we leveraged a lot of the exterior for some of the structural modes and torsional stiffness and side crash. And then we also had to design the structure that's in the castings to absorb front and rear crashes as well. So all of that was a very interesting engineering challenge. And that was actually maybe the most exciting part.
Talk to us more about how safe our vehicles are, and especially with all the engineering that went into the safety.
In development phase, we start with a clean sheet design and we figure out, okay, we've got a package of motor, we've got a package of battery, we need a structure, a crash structure, where are we putting airbags, all of that. What starts getting challenging is when you add in the different constraints on shape. Shortest crush zone of any car that we have made so far, despite also being the most massive car that we've made so far. We have a great analysis team who does super cool work with high-speed analysis of both the crash structure, how the airbags deploy, how the occupants react to those airbags, and then we correlate that and test. We probably crashed around 70 or so Cybertrucks in internal development testing. There's a lot of work that's gone into by a lot of different people, a lot of different teams to make this safe, and think about all the different corner cases from, all the regulatory modes where we say, there's a specific crash on the front, side, rear, but also all of the real world crashes that we get the data back from our fleet and we can know this is not covered by a regulatory case, but we want to protect for it. And so we design around that as well. So it's an incredible amount of people who look at every little detail of the crash structure. This is 300 series stainless steel, but it's a custom alloy. You might think of typical stainless steel. You've probably heard of things like 304, 314. These are different grades of steel and they have different corrosion resistance composition. In particular, it's kind of a 300 series alloy, but it's designed to be super tough, more malleable so we can form it, and super corrosion resistance, resistance to pitting corrosion. You see this nice shiny glossy finish. If you see something on there that's looks like rust, that rust is most likely a surface contaminant. Stainless is quite reactive. If you have an iron particle, which kind of exists everywhere in the world, they can land on the stainless and that iron particle will then oxidize and you'll see a little red speck. It's easy to clean off. And then there's some products that we recommend in the owner's manual to do a deeper clean if you do have any tough set on stains.
Now tell us about towing capacity of the vehicle.
Cybertruck in general is designed to be super aerodynamic. So what you'll see is, even though we have a tow hitch, you can't actually see it. It's behind this panel. Underneath, you'll find a traditional 2-inch hitch receiver. And the towing capacity for Cybertruck's 11,000 pounds. Obviously, we tested durability and typical auto industry specs. For launch event, we did the feats of strength. So we had the truck pull competition. So we hooked the Cybertruck and several other trucks up to a towing sled. That sled weighs about 55,000 pounds. As you go down the track, the weights move further over the skid, and the skid starts digging into the dirt, so it gets harder and harder to pull the further you get down the track. A bit outside of the tow rating, but nonetheless, no problems. And then towing a 911 while racing a 911. It speaks to kind of the capability of the truck, both in speed, performance, and towing. Yeah. Cybertruck's pretty great to tow with. When you hook up something, you basically feel like there's nothing there at all. Like if you compare it to towing with a traditional vehicle, you can kind of feel the weight behind the vehicle. But because there's such great torque and kind of instant response, you don't get the lag that you normally feel in the throttle while towing so much extra weight.
We did a tour in New York City where we had the Cybertruck pulling a clear trailer with the Model Y in it. And our driver was actually Taylor Swift's driver. About 2 hours into it, he fell so in love. He was calling his friends saying, "I do not feel that I'm pulling the trailer at all." And by the end of our journey, he was placing his order for one. Let's now discuss the tonneau cover.
Yeah, the goal was to try to make a functional cover for the bed that was, looks great, but also provides some safety and comfort to the owner. We needed the cover to be tough too. So that was one of the primary objectives from Elon. It should be so tough that I can stand up here and I can jump up and down. We've also powder coated it for extra durability. It will stop most of the elements from getting in. It's not a waterproof area. It's still a working bed. I store a bunch of my equipment, my bikes and whatever in the bed. And as long as the Tonneau's cover's closed, you may get some water that runs down the side, but it doesn't generally get anything in the bed wet.
How about aerodynamics?
Totally. Aero is something that was a consideration in every detail of the truck. Tonneau cover is an obvious one. If you have it open, there's a big gaping hole. Generally bad for aerodynamics. Look at everything. There's a cover for the tow hitch. The wiper, when you start driving, it moves slightly. And the reason it does that, it's going from this perfectly parallel, which looks great while it's parked, to what we call aero park, which is a little bit more efficient by moving in a few degrees off the corner of the windshield. Every detail around the edge of the truck was considered in the same regard. This edge was intentionally designed to create a little eddy current around here so that you have fluid stays more attached as it goes over the wheel. So there's many little details like this all around the truck, but aero is a huge consideration, despite the way the truck might look.
One of my favorite things about the vehicle is steer-by-wire. It is absolutely mind-blowing how tight it can turn and just how easy it is.
It's easy to say, hard to describe, but really you need to drive it to feel it. The steering wheel, normally you have to go hand over hand and spin it around several rotations to get all the way to the end travel of the wheel. So it only needs to go 170 degrees in either direction. So you basically, even if you wanted to go all the way lock to lock, you never have to take your hands off the wheel. That makes it feel really confidence-inspiring because you can get a really sharp turning radius without having to take your hands off the wheel. You can do it very quickly. The other addition to that is we have rear wheel steering. So not only are the front wheels turning when you're turning that hand wheel, but the rear wheels are turning, and that makes the turning radius of the truck shrink. Actually closer to a Model Y than it is to any other pickup truck. But it makes you feel like Superman driving the truck because it just responds instantly to whatever you're doing. Steer-by-wire enables us to do a bunch of neat things. When you're driving at low speed, the wheels turn opposite of each other to shrink the turning radius. But when you're driving at high speed, they actually turn in phase, driving down the highway, and you want to change lanes. You don't want to immediately rotate and then rotate back in the lane. It'd be really uncomfortable for the passengers. In this way, the wheels both rotate in the same direction and you translate into the other lane. So it's a lot less yaw and it feels a lot more comfortable. And it leads to a lot less head toss is what we call it, when the body rolls when you're changing lanes. It makes the ride feel a lot more smooth. Another is we can change the steering ratio based on speed. So when you're in the parking lot and you want to make a sharp turn, you can turn it all the way. And that nice tight turning radius. But when you're at high speed, you also don't want to be on the highway and make a little turn and be 4 lanes over there. So at higher speed, we adjust the steering ratio to make it more comfortable.
When people get in my truck, they are just blown away how comfortable the ride quality is. There's one section on my commute when I go to Fremont where there's a large pothole and many cars have blown tires. And I recall hitting that pothole and I literally did not feel it.
The chassis here is pretty crazy. There's a ton of different inputs that lead you to have that kind of experience. One is we've got a 35-inch tire. So the tires are absolutely huge, which generally makes it easier to roll over any obstacle and you feel them less. And it's a bit more comfort because the tire sidewall's a bit taller. In addition to that, you mentioned air suspension. It's a big component because it allows you to both have a higher ground clearance when you need it. So low speeds, we raise the ride height. And then at high speeds, at highway speeds, we lower down for aero efficiency. And set that also manually. So also, when you're in off-road mode, we have even more control over that ride height. Dampers for the Cybertruck are actively controlled dampers. So we can control compression and rebound damping electronically. We can adjust how much damping force you're getting both as it falls into the hole and as it returns out of the hole. It makes it feel so smooth.
Now, speaking of off-road mode, into Baja and then also Hell's Gate.
So we gave the users basically a off-road version of track mode. So in Baja mode, you have the ability to adjust the slider and put the power to the rear, put the power to the front, balance it however you want. Add traction control, reduce traction control. Is very similar to the working theory behind track mode. And then we have a more controlled off-road driving. And then in that mode, you can adjust your different terrain settings and control the traction control differently to best optimize for traction or slipping, depending on what you want. In a rock mode, for example, you want traction. You want the wheels to try to all be not slipping, because typically you're climbing up and over obstacles that are very intermittent. But in sand mode, actually you just want the wheels to spin. Most of the time, you just want to keep the wheels spinning. As soon as your wheels stop spinning, you end up getting stuck. And then we also have, on the dual motor, a locking differential both on the front and on the rear, electronically locking that you can control in off-road mode. You can also control the rear locking differential in on-road mode. So if you're in a slippery surface, highway driving, snow situation, without even having to get into off-road mode, you can go into the menu and click on slippery surface and enable the diff locker in the rear, which is a huge gain for stability while driving.
Let's talk about practical, for folks that have children. How many car seats can we fit in here?
You can actually fit 3 wide in the back. The width of this vehicle is more than any other vehicle that we make. And we've got ISOFIX anchors in all 3 positions. So you can fit both a forward-facing or rear-facing child seat in any of those 3 positions or all 3 of those positions. And they also fold up. And when they fold up, you can then use it as a utility storage area. And it's a 60-40 split. So you can have a child seat on one seat. You can fold the other 2 seats up. Or you can have 2 child seats in and fold the 1 seat up. And it's basically ultimate configuration for however you want to use the truck.
Another amazing thing is the doors actually open 90 degrees.
Yeah, it's a feature that you don't know you need until you realize how easy it is to get into the back seat with the door all the way open. And so it was some effort to do that, but I think it was a good decision in the end because it really makes loading things into that area really easy.
So my wife and I actually took our truck and we powered it from our outlets, our air fryer, our electric grill, refrigerator, and it was just wild to us that we were out in the wild and being able to have the convenience and comforts from our homes. Ari and Wes would love to hear about PowerShare.
Yeah, well, since we're talking about the truck, let's start there. The truck itself has an onboard power conversion system, and that allows us to generate a grid within the truck. So there's actually AC outlets inside the cabin, and then there's also AC outlets in the bed. And we have both 120 volt outlets and a 240 volt outlet. That 240 volt outlet in the bed can do 40 amps continuous, 48 amps peak, about 9.6 kilowatts. We also have a bi-directional universal mobile charger, which you can plug into the charge port, and that will get you up to 11 kilowatts. So overall, very capable. I've seen some people online welding, which is a pretty high current activity, and very peaky current as well. So if you have a friend that's maybe pulled over on the side of the road and ran out of juice, you can charge their vehicle up. So that's PowerShare on the vehicle, sort of taking the bidirectional inverter and power from the truck wherever you go, campsite, the tailgate, whether you're camping, you can use it for that. PowerShare Home Backup unlocks backup power for your house using your vehicle. So with the PowerShare Home Backup system, this is our PowerShare gateway, similar to the one that we use for Powerwall. And this is installed at your home, and with the PowerShare gateway and our universal wall connector, which is our home charger, you can charge your Cybertruck up to 11.5 kilowatts, which is really fast. It's overnight you can charge your car up and get back to work and where you need. So the gateways detects bridges when your vehicle is plugged in and transitions your home off-grid and backs up your home during outages, during storms, and sort of transitions your home in up to 3 seconds. And with your Cybertruck's huge battery, can power your home up to 3 days without solar. And if you have solar, you can recharge your vehicle battery and power your home while you're off-grid, sort of indefinitely.
This is a cyber chat question and answer session.
My name is Chad. My question is, for someone that drives a truck every day for work, what advantages would this have?
I mean, the obvious one is fuel. The cost to run an electric vehicle is significantly less than the cost to run an internal combustion engine, especially if you're running on diesel. The other answer is autopilot. I mean, it's not a truck feature, it's just a feature.
My name's Guy, and my question is, I've got 2 Cyber Beasts. They're phenomenal, love them. And we got the off-road light bars installed, and they are even cooler. I would love to be able to control them through the app. And right now, we can only control the ditch lights in tension mode. I was wondering if that's something you guys could bring up.
Yeah, it's a good feature request. We'll definitely share it with the team. I think it's certainly doable. See if we can make it happen.
Cynthia, and I was curious, how does it perform when you're coding or off-roading?
On YouTube, check out the off-road video where we showcase off-road mode. I had a blast driving it through Moab because it just conquered everything. We went on these trails and we'd get up to an obstacle and you'd look at it and kind of be like, I don't know, that doesn't look like something you should drive on. And then the Cybertruck just drove up it with no problem. And then, like I said, towing, for me, it's been much more relaxing towing with the Cybertruck than with any other vehicle because you don't feel the pressure of the tow rig behind you. It just feels comfortable.
Hi, Mrs. Demerda. Okay, my question is, what has something that new owners have discovered that you guys hadn't envisioned previously?
I mean, owners are always finding some way to break everything, so it's pretty good. We've learned a lot, and I mean, the thing that's pretty cool about Tesla is are constantly improving the vehicles from what we learn, not only for the new owners, but over the air. So as we figure out how to mitigate something, how to make the experience better, how to make mobile app functionality for your off-road light bar, we then, push it out to all the existing owners. Great.
To answer the other question about just the convenience of the truck, it's really like once you have a charger, I personally have solar Powerwall in the whole ecosystem, but I get home from work, I plug in, next day I'm fully charged. If there was ever a power outage, I'm already topped off from the prior day. So I really never ever have range concerns. Just the ease of the vehicle, the software updates.
The hard steel that we built was to make it super tough. And you want it to be tough in everyday applications. That was more about scratch and dent resistance. But in an effort to make it really an exoskeleton, we had to increase the thickness to a point where it's actually pretty substantial. Core panels on this vehicle are 1.8 millimeters thick, and we've been able to test it to pretty much everything that comes out of a handgun and have it stop those bullets. It definitely will take a shopping cart.
My name's Chris. I know that the future they get PowerShare with existing Powerwall users coming hopefully next year. We currently have the virtual power plant events in Southern California where we get paid $2 per kilowatt. I'm hoping that we could empty that battery out during those times and make some money. It is something that we're working on with Cybertruck. Hopefully come in sometime next year. So today, Cybertruck works with PowerShare with this PowerShare gateway.
by itself or with solar. We're about to release solar by the end of the year, sort of like a holiday update where, like I mentioned, PowerShare will back up your home, use that solar to power your truck and your home while off grid. If you just have a solar inverter today, you don't have a battery, when the grid goes out, your inverter actually doesn't work. Cybertruck actually increases the utility of that inverter so it can stay on all the time. Cybertruck can power your home with up to 11.5 kilowatts, which is the same as our Powerwall 3, which is a huge amount of power. The average home needs about one Powerwall in the US. So you essentially have that in the Cybertruck, and you have up to 9 Powerwalls of energy in the battery.
Yeah, it's always a fun fact. 9 power walls that you can drive to work and back on wheels.
Back in the day, I'm curious, when is the power share for Cybertrucks currently? If you have solar, when is that going to become active?
Okay, when is this PowerShare for solar going to be active?
PowerShare with solar is going to be active at the end of the year. You should get enough updates are going to start rolling out end of the year, early January, just like you guys do your vehicle updates and the Powerwall updates.
So in 2019, the original Cybertruck had a bench seat, and a lot of people have expressed frustration to me that they can't get one because they have a large family. I was wondering, what was the reason for taking out the bench seat, and are we going to possibly see it later on?
I think we've talked about in the past some of the trials and tribulations, but when we were going through the design of Cybertruck, at one point we decided, all right, I think we've got it. We've got the full feature set. We built some prototypes and we were driving them around. We reviewed it with Elon, and it's just a little bit too big. And so we think we need to reduce it by about 5%. Not necessarily one of those things you can just go into CAD, Control A, times 0.95, done. Everything has to get scaled, but the humans that go inside the vehicle don't get scaled. So as we reduced it down, we wanted to keep the driver's seat and the passenger seat super comfortable. Imagine that you have to fit a person in the space of that console. And so we just didn't feel like that was the premium feature we wanted to lead with. I think it's still a potential that we'll bring someday. It just wasn't a priority to get out at first because we really wanted to make sure that the experience you get on day one was the best experience you could have.
My name's Richard. Is there any plans for more range without using the extended range battery pack, or just more range in general with the extended range battery pack?
Sure. I think a couple things. One, we're basically always making the vehicles more efficient. So through firmware updates, we're always learning how the different ECUs are working, where they're needed, where they're not needed to be on. Most recent update made Sentry mode more efficient. And in the end, that gives you more range because it means your car's not using that energy while it's parked. So that's definitely one big thing that we're always chasing, is trying to make the hardware we have today more efficient. And there's always sell energy roadmaps where over time you can look back at all of our vehicles. We steadily increase the range as the technology improves in cells, and I don't think Cybertruck will be an exception.
Good. Cyberbeast owner, huge fan of off-road mode. In fact, I take my Cybertruck off-roading a lot. And I've been beating up the battery pack to the point where I've got a lot of dents, and I've been checking it, and definitely have that concern because any other Tesla, you impact the battery cells. But after watching the sending the road down, I noticed that there was that space in between the actual cells and ground. Is that an intentional design for off-roading, or am I just being really, really unsmart?
Yeah, good question. The battery pack was designed with a vent gap on the bottom so that when you do have those underside impacts and you cause a dent, it's just denting into the air that's in the pack. There's an air gap between the bottom of the pack and the cell. Additionally, coming soon, we have off-road armor coming, which you'll be able to bolt up to the bottom of your battery pack, as well as rock sliders, which should give you a little bit more functionality and toughness along the rocker of the vehicle.
Hey, my name is Saeed. My question was about the silhouette of the vehicle and how that became. What was the inspiration for that? And my second question was the rear window. You ever think about having it move up and down?
Sure.
What's the reason why it doesn't?
The silhouette was basically one of the first things that got sketched out, and it's pretty cool the way the light reflects because of the faceted angle of the side, especially in low light. What you get is the highlight of the character line, and you get that perfect silhouette. Franz and his design studio team did a great job. To the second question, talking about the back window, it was something we considered. And again, it was innocent bystander of the 5% reduction. We looked at the vehicle and we shrunk it by 5%. The back seat started getting a little bit cramped. And so we were trying to figure out how can we gain a few millimeters here and there back. And so we started finding places we could shift things. And one of the big ones was the back wall has some thickness, both for the tonneau that goes up, and then we had some thickness so the window can roll down. And when you look at the open the back door and look in, you'll see it has the back window has a bit of an angle. So then you have to protect for space that's a little bit even bigger than the width of that window. So we found if we deleted the rolling window, obviously we're deleting a part, we're removing complexity and cost, but we also gained back probably almost 2 inches of space of now what is rear leg room. Said, okay, well, probably almost every Cybertruck will have a rear occupant sitting in it and will appreciate that 2 inches. And a lot less owners will appreciate that the back window rolls down. So we want to optimize for what we thought was going to be the greater area of happiness under the area curve.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm an employee over at XAI, and I just was curious as to, we saw with the most recent update that when you speak to your car, the first time it responds back, so if you say hi, it says hello. Is there plans on possibly bringing Grok into future Teslas or even current Teslas that exist today?
I don't know, but I think check X. I'm pretty sure someone asked Elon, and if he replied yes, it'll eventually happen.
2 weeks.
What's the name of your question?
Hi, my name is Omar, and I actually had a question about the size for the Cybertruck. So I'm a big guy, I'm 6'7", so I was curious, would you guys ever consider making a bigger Cybertruck? And also, too, if you guys would possibly do a snow path one, because I know there's a lot of people that only get the 2 seats up in front.
Called the semi.
Yeah, it may be in the future roadmap. What I'd say is, I don't know, have you sat in a Cybertruck? How do you think of it?
It's good, but I kind of took some gas a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, you've probably seen, but I think Shaq has two Cybertrucks. So, I mean, you're competing with Shaq there on occupant space. Like, trying to make sure that the cabin was designed so that you could slam the seat, and your head's basically right at the peak. So we're trying to maximize the space there. And there may be some improvements coming in the future, both for the seat adjustability. That's definitely easier than making a bigger Cybertruck.
My name's Aaron. I'm also a filmmaker, and I'm just curious. The question I always ask in documentaries, like, what was the hardest part of making it, and then also the most fun, like designing it?
So it's like you have infinite variables to adjust. How do you adjust them to optimize them? And in a way that doesn't necessarily, you want to trade off crash performance, but you don't want to reduce durability. You want to keep torsional stiffness so it drives like a sports car.
I run the F the Pump social media, so you guys know. A question for PowerShare though. In Southern California Edison territory, the electricians are connecting everything but the PowerShare. They say that Tesla in Southern California can't figure out how to do it. You mentioned an update coming, but I don't have mine connected. Is there a roadmap on it, or is this the wrong question for you?
That is the backup switch. SCE is currently installing them for Powerwall, but not yet for PowerShare. We're working with them to get that approved to actually start installing them. We're hoping, sometime by the end of the year, maybe January, they'll come to your house, plug it in, and then your system will work.
Chris from Accelerating Tech Channel. One question that most new owners have: did you think about a different finish for the stainless steel that would not attract as many fingerprints? And the second one, any chance the Cybertruck was designed as a multiple vehicle platform?
Sure, yeah, on the fingerprints, I mean, we went through all sorts of different finishes. It ends up being a good trade-off between how shiny do you want it. Surprisingly, the more shiny you make it, the less fingerprint prone it is. It's a little counterintuitive. But you've probably seen like the chrome Cybertruck driving around online. Matte finish is really imperfections in the surface. And when you get a fingerprint, it's like your finger oil is getting stuck in those crevices. When you have the super shiny truck, there's no crevices. So fingerprints don't really stick. Generally, studio prefers something a bit more matte looking. We had all sorts of samples. We even optimized in the color. If you look at the stainless in sunlight and compare it to maybe a stainless piece that you might get from, I don't know, Home Depot or something, you'll see that this is a little bit more of a blue color. So these are all things the studio has, dreams about and tries to figure out what they think is going to be the best overall aesthetic in the end. So yeah, that's where we ended up. As far as multi-vehicle platform, I don't know. It certainly isn't designed that way. It's designed to be a Cybertruck. So that was the intent.
Hi, my name is Amy. One of the things that it really blows my mind about this vehicle is how you really rethought and redesigned from modern technology, the systems, like 28 volts, low voltage wiring. How early in the design process did you make those decisions to do that type of thing, and what were the challenges associated with doing that? I mean, the benefits are clear, like the wiring harness has got to be so much simpler, so much lighter, but it's just really cool. And then the steer-by-wire, and like you were talking about, the slippery mode, the Grok mode, and the way you designed it for fun.
I think the nice thing about Cybertruck was because it's so radically different, we kind of had free reign in the engineering level to do radically different things as well. And so from the start, we already knew we were going to bake in steer-by-wire. It was something we wanted to do. When you think of a robotaxi, it doesn't have a steering wheel. That needs to be something that gets developed. It doesn't just happen on its own. So we spent some time thinking, all right, this is the platform we're going to do that on. 48 volts has been a long time coming, as voltage loads in vehicles have just gone up and up and up. And those loads are just a function of how much power and then the voltage. If we increase the voltage, you have less current and generate less heat. It's more efficient, weighs less, costs less. Lots of good reasons to do it. So we knew also from the start we wanted to do that. 800 volt powertrain was the same. The larger the vehicle, the more beneficial high voltage is in the powertrain. There's even more architecture things that are a bit silly for the customer, but actually really cool for engineering. The communication within the car is typically an automotive CAN bus, and we went to an Ethernet protocol. So it's actually several orders of magnitude faster in communication, and that enabled us to do a bunch of cool things around distributed controllers. So actually, the audio system in the truck is super good. Go sit in the trucks out there, turn on your favorite song, and just enjoy. But those speakers around the vehicle are not connected to a central controller. There's not a central amplifier that's controlling everything. Every speaker is connected to the controller that's nearest to it, and they're all talking over Etherloop. And we have to keep the delay small enough that it's not perceptible, which requires super high accuracy and timing that's shared across all the controllers. So the team spent a lot of time trying to make that work. It's not only useful for audio, but it's useful for all the controls. Another thing I'd say is on the structural design, actually the subwoofers are underneath the rear seat. And you won't actually notice them even if you fold up the rear seats. They're hidden in there. They're super tiny relatively, but they have an outsized sound. And that's because those subwoofer housings are actually connected and integrated to the body sides. So we use the air volume inside of the vehicle body side, the structure, as the reactive air volume for that subwoofer, which really helps generate more bass.
My name's William. The question I had was I couldn't use a rear view mirror when the Tonneau was down. I was wondering if there's any thought to they connect to a digital camera and use it all the time.
There is a mode actually you can enable on the UI so that the digital camera comes up on that center screen. You can have both that as well as when you put on the turn signal, it'll bring up a side repeater view. So you'll get both of these on the main screen. That screen's 18.5 inches large, so I'd say it's probably larger than we'd ever make a display up here, which gives you a lot more real estate. You can enable that now right in the UI. You can disable it if you don't like it too. And then, always open the Tonneau.
There's a 3-camera view. I actually removed the rear view mirror in my Cybertruck because it is so wonderful. It gives you 2 views of your blind spots, also a rear view. So it's something I would encourage you to try during your demo drive.
Hi, my name is Sultan, and I'd like to ask if there were any FSD-specific design or engineering challenges with this Cybertruck, like camera placement, front bumper camera, anything else.
Maybe one of the design constraints was to try to make sure the camera placements were very similar to our other vehicles. It really helps leverage the fleet training that is already happening. There's only so many Cybertrucks on the road, but we've been building vehicles like 2 million a year at this point globally, and we can get all the training data from that. So you can imagine, let's say we made all the camera positions unique for Cybertruck. We now need to train uniquely on Cybertruck to build an end-to-end neural net. So that was certainly one of the first architecture, milestones where we said we have to put the cameras as close to the same spot as possible to make this really easy.
How about the height?
The height was an interesting challenge because the height's adjustable. So that was something the AP team had to sprinkle some magic FSD dust on to make work.
So that leads to semi then.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you so much for attending.